There is a very good possibility by the end of this episode, you're going to be going through your storage, checking Goodwill, checking OfferUp, and maybe going onto eBay to purchase a Spotify car thing for ham radio. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but this is going to be big. Let's get started right now on Dude Tested. For those unfamiliar, the Spotify car thing was a piece of hardware that you would have in your vehicle, and it would sync up with your Spotify account from your phone. This would allow you to do things like navigate through songs, change songs, turn up the volume, all without having to access your phone while driving, making it a lot safer on the roadways. However, a while back, Spotify decided to end support for the car thing, and what that meant was these were essentially useless. Until down the road, somebody came out with something known as the DeskThing, which jailbroke your Spotify car thing to be able to function with custom applications. And when I saw a video regarding that, I knew that I had to get one of these and make some custom ham radio tools. Imagine being able to scroll through your Spotify car thing to see your active decodes on WSJTX to include what frequency you're on, what their reports are, and much more. Or maybe you feel like FT8 is like watching paint dry, and I get it. It's not for everybody. Well, in that case, maybe you're curious about the current UTC, the current local time, the current solar flux index, sunspot numbers, band conditions, solar and geomagnetic conditions in a little more depth, as well as the HF band propagation in more depth. Keep scrolling, and we even do get some more POTA spots, as well as some more SOTA spots. Maybe none of that is your thing, and maybe you're curious about being able to control your FlexRadio with the Spotify car thing. Here I could tell you without doubt, I am able to control my FlexRadio, such as transmitting, changing frequencies, changing bands, and even just checking things like my signal strength on that frequency. My point is the possibilities with the Spotify car thing and ham radio tools are nearly endless. By the end of this episode, not only am I going to show you how to install the custom firmware on the Spotify car thing, but I'm also going to show you how to utilize artificial intelligence. I'm going to give you the prompts that will allow you to build ham radio apps for the car thing. If you have a new ICOM that was just released, you can make your own app with the guide that I'm going to provide you. So let's get started, and thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Our first step is to acquire a Spotify car thing. You might already have one lying around. And if you don't, you can go to places like your local pawn shops, Goodwill, OfferUp, Craigslist, or finally possibly eBay to acquire a car thing. And if you plug it in to your computer and then into the USB, you might notice you'll get some kind of error that looks like this. Please use an adapter. That's no problem. In fact, that's probably a good sign. So what we'll do after this point is we're going to hold down the first and the fourth buttons as we plug in our USB-C. As we plug in that USB-C and hold down the buttons, we should hear our computer detect a new device. We can go ahead and let go of the Spotify car thing, and at this point, there's nothing happening, and that's a good thing. We heard the beep on the computer, we have a black screen, we're in bootloader mode. While in bootloader mode, we're going to go over to thingify.tools and we're going to download our custom firmware. To do that, we're going to click on Thing Labs, and then we're going to click on the most recent version 8.9.2, and download it. Our next step is to flash the device. So we are in bootloader mode, or what is probably better known as USB mode. And we're going to go to the website terbium.app, and here we're going to first click the next button. As you can see, it says please boot the Spotify car thing into USB mode, which we've already done, so we'll click the done button. And our next option is to please select the device from the device selector, and we could do that by clicking connect and then finding the device that is listed here. It's either going to be AM Logic or a GX chip. Now that we've clicked OK, what we're going to do here is we're going to restore from a local folder. Before we could select an actual folder, we need to extract the file that we just downloaded, 8.9.2. You can select it here and click Extract All. After extracting is done, select the folder and find the location where you've extracted those files. At this point now we can see restore from folder, and all we have to do, we see all these files in here, is click select. At this point it would attempt to flash everything, but we get an error. And if you do see this error, it could be one of three things. It could be that you're using too long of an extension cable for your USB device. It could be that you're using poor quality USB cables. And finally, it could be that you need to change the USB cable from the front panel of your computer to the rear panel. In my case, it happens to be that I'm using a very long extension cord and the data transfer is failing. I'll bypass that extension cable and I'll plug in directly to the computer. While the custom firmware is installing onto your card thing, now's a great time to go hit that like button and subscribe to Dude Tested. As you can see, this was a successfully completed flash. Next up, we're going to unplug and plug back in our USB device. What will happen is we'll boot up with a Thing Labs display, and eventually it will go back into the Spotify display. This is good. Now let's go back to the computer and download a program called DeskThing. Navigating to DeskThing is very easy. DeskThing.app, and we're going to download the latest release for whatever operating system we have. In my case, it will be Windows. Locate our downloaded file and install. DeskThing acts as a server to the CarThing. The CarThing acts as a client and makes requests to the server DeskThing. DeskThing then determines what it has to do, and it goes out and it finds them. So for example, if we were pulling a parks on the air spot, it would go to an API online, grab that information, and pass it along to the card thing. This next part should be fairly easy, although I ran into a problem and I want to explain it to you. You're going to click on Clients and you're going to set up your new device. Now normally it would show connected right here and it would actually show a device, but as you could see, I don't show a device, and if I go over to the car thing, I could see that it says reconnecting and it's not actually connected to the server or the computer. So I page down and I click on restart onboarding. When I do that, I get the DeskThing icon again and I can re-click sync with server. At this point, it should reconnect, or we should at least see it within the DeskThing application. Sometimes you might even need to reboot the device to get it to properly sync the first time. As you can see now, I show a connected status on my Spotify card thing, and if I go back to the app, we should now see the client. Success, our server sees the client. Now that we have our card thing, the client talking to the DeskThing, the server, we need to install applications that can be ran. Let's go ahead and install POTA thing, which will be linked in the description below. In order to install an app, click on Downloads, click on Add App, click on Upload Local File, and locate where you downloaded the app to. Select the app, in this case POTA thing with actions. And if you do get any warnings here about this being an insecure app, go ahead and click on the Acknowledged and Initialize App. What you'll see is the app initializes, and if we click on apps, we'll now see that POTA thing is not only installed, but it is running. So now we can go back to the Spotify card thing. On the Spotify card thing, I could swipe down from the top of the screen and I see my little POTA thing gear icon. When I click on it, what will happen is the POTA Spots app will load, and it may take a moment to refresh the spots. We now have a nice application that can sit on our desk, and it allows us to see what current spots are available. And we could also filter by the different bands by hitting the filter button on the bottom of the screen or the all button at the top of the screen. As you can see, there's no spots for 160 meters, but there are some for 80 meters. We can continue to click filter until we get all the way through back to all. At this point, I would like to show you a couple of different apps that are in the process of being created so that you could see the potential of the Spotify card thing for ham radio. I loaded 3 more apps that I find useful. The first app is WSJTX. Currently, as it sits, it could monitor WSJTX traffic, show you the most recent decodes, but there is no way to control the transmit from this device yet. But what it does show us is what frequency we're on, as well as what decodes we have. As you can see, I just changed frequency and it shows the frequency change here. In just a moment, it should show us our decodes. Very cool. Our next app is what I call Ham Things. And it's basically a ham clock without the map. It has things like the UTC as well as our current local time, the solar flux index, sunspot numbers, the K index, the A index, the band conditions on the main screen. But if we scroll through, we get more detailed information on the next screens. This is a cool little app and can be very useful for just sitting on your desk, and it also does show POTA spots as well as SOTA spots. And finally, the FlexRadio app. Now, if you listen really close in the background, you might be able to hear it when I switch bands. And not only can I switch bands and we see that the FlexRadio is on, I could switch modes, I could input a frequency manually, and I could even hit the transmit button. In the future development, I do hope to be able to utilize the rotary wheel with the step function to be able to slightly adjust the frequencies. I'm sure it's possible, I just haven't figured it out yet. As I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, it was my goal to make sure that almost anybody can create their own custom Spotify car thing / DeskThing app. In order to do that, I've incorporated the use of AI to give the ultimate prompts that should help you make the app that you choose. Let's select a random app to make right now. My testing was conducted with Claude AI, as I find that that's one of the better programming AIs out there. After spending quite a bit of time trying to figure out why my apps wouldn't work, and also troubleshooting with Claude, and finally coming up to a solution, I had Claude build the DeskThing App Development Guide. In this development guide, it goes over everything from overview, architecture, structure, critical requirements, everything that you're going to need to be able to successfully build the code. But you don't need to worry about this. You copy and paste this into your AI software. Additionally, I had Claude make me the Claude prompt for DeskThing App Development, and it goes through a number of different things. Again, all we need to do is upload this. Now that I have those two files uploaded to the AI program and they should tell your AI what to do, I'm going to also upload the POTA thing. What uploading the POTA thing does is gives your AI the reference to know how to build the app. And so now I'll just give it a set of instructions to build a repeater book API for my car thing. During this step, I'm going to try to be as detailed as possible. For this demonstration, I would like a beautiful, simple, and elegant display of repeater book repeaters in my area. I should be able to filter them by not only bands such as 2 meters and 70 centimeters, but also by modes. I should be able to sort the repeaters by distance or by frequency. There should be an option which allows me to put in my zip code to establish my repeater. This application will be a very user-friendly user interface. This application will have a very friendly user interface and be easily scrollable and accessible. The only thing I haven't put here is I want to utilize APIs to grab that information, but I really do believe that Claude is going to understand how to get that information. After setting the requirements and hitting enter, it may take 10 or 15 minutes for AI to build the app. Our repeater book files have been created. We have a zip file for our source code as well as a zip file which should be ready to install as an app. Sometimes it's not able to, but let's go ahead and click download and then we'll try to install it to see what occurs. Next, we'll go through the same process of clicking add app, clicking on upload local file, and finding the zip file that we just downloaded that is not the source. At this point, we should be able to initialize the app, and if it fails, we'll need to rebuild it. However, it shows initializing app, and if we go to our app store, we see repeater book is running. Let's see what's happening on the car thing. I also want to mention that you could see the author name is different in each of these, and that's because AI really isn't smart. It just puts together things that it thinks should be put together. However, you could go into the manifest.json file and you could change things like the developer name, the app name, the version number, and so forth. You could also have some custom icons made so that the icons are different on the Spotify itself. But those are things that you could figure out down the road once you start to get situated with utilizing DeskThing and CarThing. While inside of the RepeaterThing application, we can click on settings and we can go down to settings, and then we'll see our zip code listed here, and we can click save after we update our zip code. And then don't forget to click run. If the server's not running, the client cannot communicate with that application. However, we've run into an issue where it's been a couple of moments and the RepeaterThing application hasn't got past the splash screen. There's something preventing the repeater information from loading, and we need to figure out what it is. As we're stuck on the screen and we jump back into our DeskThing, I'm on Developer tab. If you don't see Developer tab, you can click on Clients, or rather you can go down to Settings, and you can go to Server and make sure that Advanced Mode is enabled. Once it's enabled, you should get all of these errors. And what we're going to do is we're going to select as many errors as we can. And after we select these errors, we're going to copy them by doing Control-C and going into our artificial intelligence program once again to tell them what the errors are. My AI software determined that RepeaterBook now requires authentication for API access. So what is probably going to happen as it rebuilds this app is it will give a spot for the username and password to be entered for the API. The new application is done being built, and it gives me instructions on what I need to do. Uninstall the old RepeaterBook app, install the new one, enter my email address as per the API terms, set my zip code, and it should automatically work at that point. This is the process that might take a few tries, maybe even a little bit more to get it right. Once you finally get this to function, you may even have it do things like adjust the font size, add features, or maybe even remove features. Currently, I'm getting no results because my filters are too strict. So I send that information back into AI, and it should generate me a new file here shortly. We are now on version 3 or 1.03. Let's see if it will load the repeaters this time. And there we go. Very nice. One of the things I recognize immediately is that I don't recognize any of these different repeaters. In fact, I don't even know where McLean is. It turns out McLean, Illinois is in roughly the center of Illinois, and that's where it was defaulting to when it was trying to sort by distance. And so the solution was easy. Tell AI what was happening. And this is what it came up with. After a couple of different attempts, we've come to a kind of a better solution here with the app and how it works. And so now we sort by our distance, and it's more accurate in sorting by the distance. And I didn't have to tell it too much, but also we can click on filter, and we should be able to do things like filter out by how far of a distance from our zip code we want to be able to view repeaters. We could sort by the distance or by the frequency, and we could select multiple bands in multiple modes to be displayed. Now when the repeaters display, we can click on one of the repeaters and we get a much larger window showing the details about the repeater to include its location, the tones, and the frequency. You know, it wasn't too long ago that I was getting licensed, and it felt like every website that I'd go to was extremely outdated. Today I showed you why I appreciate and really love the art of hacking and the art of really experimentation in amateur radio. I showed that to you with the Spotify card thing, and then I taught you how I utilize modern day resources such as AI or artificial intelligence to do things that maybe we in the past would not have been able to do on our own. These could be very valuable tools and resources going forward in the future. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please consider hitting that like button. Please consider subscribing. It's free and it helps me out. Thanks a lot, 73.